What's up, my friends? It's been a while since I've posted. I've been busy. I've been getting a lot of music done and several other things going on in my life. If you can still see, I'm in my dad's office as a temporary studio and such, and I've been looking forward to having my own place. I've been busy doing a lot of stuff with building me a little home on my property, a ways from here. That's going to be an ordeal because I'm self-contracting it, but we'll get through it. It'll be all cool. It'd be great to have all my studio stuff in one place. I'm kind of back and forth with storage unit and here and doing all that, but all's been well. Kind of slowing down on acquiring software that I don't need. I've updated a few things, but we're going to do that no matter what we do musically. We're going to update software. Those things are going to happen. That's why these days you probably have to have as much hard drive as you can get, and it's very expensive depending on what you've got. And on a MacBook Pro, it's expensive. It really is. But I did pick up, it's just me, but guitar players like myself, if you're a guitar player, you know this, our quest for a guitar amp sound. I'm not playing live as much as I was. It's been a while since I've really been in a band, but I love the studio part of it. And I want something I can play live and do the studio with. And some time ago, I bought a Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200, and that thing is incredible. I've thought about it. I'm not getting rid of that. That's the most tube-sounding solid-state amp on a floorboard I've ever seen in my life. It's a power amp and preamp. You can use it either way. It's so loud. The only downfall with that one is that I wish there was a foot controller for wah and volume on that, and a few other things, and man, that thing would be perfect. I wouldn't even have gotten what I just got. I got the Line 6 Pod Go, which I think is incredible because it's so compact. I can fit it in a bag and everything I need. I can play live with it, and it sounds incredible. You get Helix sounds without it being a Helix, and the thing is I've learned something, that the difference between this and the Helix is all out of preference. If you want a Helix, you can spend more money and do that. You get to stack more amps and do other things, and it's bigger, but I don't need to do all that. I mean, you can get a killer sound with what you're doing. And if you're recording, you're going to be able to take a clean sound with that and take this, and you're going to be able to stack tracks by doubling when you're playing, and it kind of do cool things however you want with that. So when you're recording, it's different from live. We all know that if you've done both like I have and have for many years. But that's where it stands with that. Other than that, all is well. I wanted to get on and talk real quick about AI, artificial intelligence. Good old Jesse over at Sync My Music has kind of shifted his channel a little bit into talking about this. And honestly, I don't know what to think about it. I really don't. One side of it's kind of cool, and I mean, whether you like it or not, we're already dealing with AI. I mean, look at Logic Pro. Look at Logic Drummer, specifically at Logic Pro. That's AI. I mean, it's incredible. I've used it, and I don't use it for everything they do, but certain things I can nail it, and it's a time saver what it can do. It's so cool. But you can't just drop and go. You still want to chop it up and work fills and dial in how much intensity you want to fills. And the cool thing is automatically it goes, okay, I'll do a little bit more, or you can take that fill off of that beat and cut it and change the fill off of that in your ending, and it makes it easier in your workflow. And that's kind of the future of the way things are going for our workflow. Some people say, well, that's cheating. I mean, if you're a guitar player like me and you're not a drummer and you need a good drummer, that ain't cheating, man. That's just, drummers think that way, and I get it. Drummers feel like they're being cheated. You always need a drummer, especially when you're playing live. But with today's times, it's amazing what you can do. It really is. So, but that's AI. We've already, look at Reason. Look at all, if you use Reason, all those racks and all the bass generators and stuff they do. I mean, I don't get into a lot of that, but I use the tools sometimes when needed, but always pick up that bass and that guitar, most definitely, and play my own stuff. I think a lot of people are worried and concerned about what AI is going to do with creating its own music. And some of you may have already heard, and if you have music with Pond 5, which I've had some tracks from past years, I just threw in the Pond 5. I knew I'd never do anything else with anything, and some that I've released that I could just put there just to set them somewhere. Because if you're me, and I always encourage, don't let your music sit on your hard drive. Always let your music work somewhere. Just get it off. It's got to be, your music can be working for you no matter what. You may go, it's just been sitting there, but that's the whole point of it. It's always going to sit there, It's going to work for you. It's like investing money. Get it out there, and do it. Don't let people discourage you about not doing this and that. You do what works best for you. There are some people that make sole living on stock music. Hey, go for it. I do mostly all sync, but I had some tracks over there. And if you've heard these data sets that they talk about, I got payment for it. I think everybody got something different depending on how many tracks they had in there. And I don't know, but I don't think it's the first or the last. I don't think that's the last payment we're going to get. And what it is these AI companies are already examining your music and trying to pay royalties on trying to examine pixels of pictures and video and things of your music in a pattern and play styles and metadata. And it is worrisome, but I also kind of see that there's an opportunity for money to be made with your music, which I think you should always be doing music no matter what, because they're using your music. I think in the future, they're going to be able to take, let's say they take your music and they take 2 other songs, they make a new track out of it. Well, guess what? I think in time, it's going to be that you're going to get a cut of that royalty and that upfront licensing fee for using your music. It's a licensing thing. So I think there's, to me, I think I'm not too worried about it, even though I need to keep my eye on it and I need to learn about it as much as possible, because I think we will always need a human element in our music. And I don't think computers are ever going to replace that. God, we hope not, We can always unplug them, I think the worrisome part about when you get into copyright law and some things is letting this become the wild, wild west and letting computers just do whatever. I think that's a kind of a scary thought. And if you listen to Elon Musk lately, whether you agree with him or not, doesn't matter. The guy was there. He knows these guys that started this. He went to school with them. He knows the guys were the beginnings of Google and all this stuff. Elon's a smart guy. He pretty much told these guys, yeah, that's great, but I'm a little worried about human beings and mankind here. We need to be careful. And one of them just kind of lashed at him and said, what are you, a speciesist or something? Like, yeah, busted, you got me. I'm a speciesist, I'm one of these guys that I'm worried about mankind because he believes that, yeah, there are dangers of AI. And I'm not a big on all this regulation and stuff, and especially what's going on now. It's a bunch of crap. That's why we're paying so much money for things. It's ridiculous. There's a difference to me, I think, between political regulation and safety and the proper regulation. And his point was, I think there's be regulation on the safety of AI and what its capabilities of misleading things and manipulating things that we should never have going on. AI has a very good future and being able to do some things that will help us, but we have to be very careful in how we approach it. I think we should think methodically about what we're doing before we start diving into this. And I believe with him there is a danger of it. When I say the difference between political regulation and good, political regulation is what we're going through with our gas prices and stuff like that. It should never be going on. The reason why we have inflation the way it is. That's not what I'm talking about, and that's a whole subject that I'm not getting into. That's just, whether you agree with it or not, I know that doesn't even matter. The regulation he's speaking of is we need to put things in place that keep these people from manipulating things that will just take over everything you do, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and like, what do you mean I can't do that? No, the computer's handling it. You can't do it. You can't make that decision. You can't do that anymore. And they're just going to take your music and do that, or they're going to make their own music and they're just going to throw you to the curb. I don't think that that's ever going to be the case of AI throwing you to the curb, because no one can stop you from picking up your guitar and recording music. But what I do think that it will do, and this is some things I think Jesse's kind of talking about a little bit and kind of speculating, is that I think AI will change the way we record music. And it is scary, man, if you think about it. But if you embrace it and start learning about it, I know this is the one thing, people talk about NFTs and all that stuff. This is the one thing I'll keep my eye on, because the last couple of years, they've had panels at the Production Music Conference each year talking about AI. And I didn't really go to those panels. But this year, I'm going to it. I'm going to listen to it. In fact, there's a video from last year. I need to bring it up and watch it. So what they're talking about, people were showing video examples, and people are all buzzing like, oh my God, you see what that thing can do? It's scary. It's just creating music. What are we going to do, It just, stuff like this just causes, panic, and, it's like, best way I can describe it is like, there's some things the government knows and things that we don't need to know about every day. We'll never live our life right if we hear about stuff the government and threats the government sees. And You know, you'll never leave the house. You know, you'll live your life in fear. There's things you just don't need to know. You know, but there are some things you do need to know and be educated on and keep aware of that are on the horizon. For one, it can help you with your music career because things are always changing. Man, could you have imagined 12, 15 years ago where the music industry was then it is now? Hell, I really thought 25 years ago when I was recording stuff, and before that, even early 90s, that music was going to change for the independent artists. I knew it. I always knew it. I told people, like, that's never going to happen. You're never going to do anything unless you're signed to a record label. I said, nope, the technology is going where the independent artist is going to win, and we win now. We're winning, dude. No matter what your career is, if you look at what's going on, I mean, look how some of these artists have blown up on their own, you know? They didn't need a record label. Look at that. And I've always known it. That we were going to, and it's always changing. I never would have thought that our recording technology would be what it is now already, but I did know, I did have a strong feeling that recording was going to get a lot easier because when digital recording started, I had one of those Roland 1680 complete systems. Some of you may have had them too. It was incredible, and I just knew because I came from tape. Some of you didn't, and you want to talk about the struggle being real? Recording on tape. Try cutting tape with a razor blade. I've done that. You cut too short of a piece and you're done, you know. And the beauty and the gift of digital music is it's taught me how to produce better that analog didn't do. It was harder because we had outboard gear and you're like going, okay, production is, it's almost, when you're doing analog and digital, it's like a complete opposite of your production styles. Like you could oversaturate and crank the volume knob and get a little saturation and some overabundance of volume and peak it a little bit, and it kind of helped with tape, what they call a lot of tape saturation. But with digital, not so much. It's more precise, and you're gonna get those pops. You'd get static when you went too far with analog, but you get pops with digital. And you knew when I started recording digital, I was like, what in the hell is that? And I understood really quick because my background was in electronics, engineering, technology. I had my college degrees in that, and I understood about frequencies and the differences of analog and digital and how it, you know, I put 2 and 2 together, like, okay, I get it. It's more precise, 0 to 5 volts versus to 0 to God knows what else in analog, you know? So, but I'm getting off tangent here for a minute. I'm gonna get back, but we have to just embrace it and don't panic about artificial intelligence. And that's my only input that I can give is that we just have to kind of roll with it, you know? It may not be as bad as you think. Look at all the opportunities that have been given to us now. I mean, if you're working hard enough, who would have thought, and I never would have thought I'd been writing music for TV and film, but I am. And getting with publishers that years ago I thought getting a publishing deal, it's like a record deal, and they gave you all this upfront money and they published your music, and then it's like, no, it's still a publishing deal, but it's a little bit different today, you know. Not to say that doesn't exist still with songwriters, but this day and time they give you a bunch of money up front, you're waiving something else for the future sync fees, and that's depending on what you're getting up front. That's can be a tough decision to make, but it's an easy decision if they say they're only giving you $100 a track. Well, if the future comes along and there's a sync fee for $1,000, you're waiving that if you take upfront money. Most of these contracts are like that. I've said it before that I think there probably are contracts that give you upfront money and future sync money, but they're not talking about those contracts much, and they're few and far between. You know, they're not advertising those contracts much, you know, they really aren't. So anyway, artificial intelligence, man, it's creeping up on us, and you've heard about it in the news, and it's coming. Just focus on it and learn about it. Educate yourself about it. I'm going to be doing the same. I don't know everything, and I don't claim to be, but it's getting interesting. You know, just last week, I think they had, and Jesse was talking about this, they had a pop track hit the Spotify. Somebody released it, and they literally AI'd the voice of that R&B producer Drake and that group The Weeknd, and he created a track by AI and AI'd their voices over the top of it, singing the lyrics that he generated, and the track hit the charts, man. It was probably 50 million listens or something crazy or that, and when they caught wind of it, like, whoa, time out, they took it down. They didn't know what to do with it. And, you know, but think about the future aspect of that, that if your music is in that mix and someone else is in their voices, everybody's making a cut of that royalty maybe. It's something that could happen. But these are the things that are going to make Conversation at Production Music Conference this year very interesting, because they're going to start talking about legalities of how this is going to go in the future and what we need to make sure happens to protect composers. And that's the conversation that needs to happen, folks. That's one of the most important, to protect us, because we're always going to be relevant. And I think there's always going to be a human element. And I believe it. I believe there will always be that. So anyway, no fear yet on that, but keep an open mind. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Be cool. Bye.